Hey, I'm Megan. This is my channel Glue Guns and Roses, and this video is episode 1 of our Extreme Craft Room Makeover on an extremely small budget. We were here taking trash that my neighbors were throwing away and turning it into treasure. More specifically, wall storage, desk, and a chair for the craft room. Totally stoked about this video. Have nothing else to say, so we are getting into it like right now. Oh, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, that's cool too, because YouTube definitely makes the button for you. Whichever you like, no hard feelings, and we're for real getting started now. And we are kicking this video off with this old busted crib. I got out of the trash like 2 years ago. Originally, I picked this up for my sister who was pregnant at the time. She didn't want it, tried to give it away to like 3 other chicks. They didn't want it, even offered it up for free on Facebook Market and nobody wanted it. So I have zero remorse for taking apart this crib. I only want the little grid, but I will do something later on with the wooden parts. Now, I've seen all over Pinterest where people take the grid area, and I don't know what it's called. I don't think it's called a box spring, but someone correct me. I have no clue what this part's called. I just want the grid area. I don't want the springs attached. I've seen where people use the frame that's attached to it, and I don't want that. I was struggling to get the springs off, so thank you, Brandon, for the assist once again. I appreciate it greatly. Once we got the first few springs off though, it came off like really easy. Collected the little springs, then went down to my local Walmart to pick up some little curtain rod hangers. Actually, I went for groceries, but since I was already there, I went ahead and picked up some curtain rod hangers. These were like $2.50 a pack, which is kind of pricey. I've seen them cheaper at Big Lots. So heads up there, black spray paint it then black. Then all you have to do is just hang up your grid. I don't know what this is called. Is this called the frame? No clue. But I wanted the springs separate to use them as hooks, so I didn't have to go out and buy a bunch of little hooks to hang my stuff up. And this is working out like really great so far. I love the way it turned out. And it is bare right now, but this is new, so I'm still figuring out how I want to hang stuff, how I want to organize. This next DIY is probably my most favorite transformation in the entire video. I got this office chair off my neighbor's curbside trash. And right now you're probably thinking like, Megan, you're crazy picking up that who knows infested what chair. But let me tell you, I'm not keeping the top padded part or the bottom padded part. I only wanted the rolly wheels and the little plate that came along with it. We are keeping the screws. I've had a specific office chair in my mind that I've wanted to create for like the longest time ever. And I did want this bottom specifically because it's wood. You see how it's hanging upside down right now? That's what it looked like when I picked it up off the curbside. It's been spray painted by some type of really cheap spray paint because it's sanded off extremely easy. So I just went through and sanded it by hand with 200 grit and then taped it off using Dollar Tree's painter's tape. And if you didn't know, Dollar Tree's painter's tape actually works really well. It easily peels off. And then I also keep contact paper on hand. You can pick this up at Dollar Tree, just the same, for $1 to use to cover stuff up while spray painting. After that was all said and done, I went back with the same Rust-Oleum spray paint we used for the crib. And I don't think I mentioned, it's only $3.50. You know, you can get Walmart's brand spray paint for only 97 cents, but realistically, you save yourself money in the long run just using a nicer quality spray paint like Rust-Oleum. Then this is one of 4 kitchen chairs that my mom dug out of her neighbor's trash like 10 years ago. They were originally green and had grapes and apples painted on them. Think like 90s style kitchen. And I spray painted them. I didn't sand or anything. I don't know, maybe like 8 years ago. Now this chair, we only used 3, so this is the 4th chair. We've had this in the garage. We've used it for outdoor seating. The paint is not made for outdoors, especially like when you don't sand. So some of the paint did chip off, but that is absolutely no big deal because we're gonna fix that. I still did scrub it down though because it had been chilling in the garage. Then I whipped out the handsaw and just sawed off the legs. This wasn't hard, it was just awkward because the legs were at an angle. But really, you just let the handsaw do the work for you and just run it back and forth. You really don't need to put a lot of pressure down when you're using the handsaw. So I do think that like a lot of people could do this. It doesn't require a bunch of strength. Then same can of spray paint, just went back and spray painted all over the chair. Now I probably should have sanded this, but honestly, I just really didn't feel like sanding, so I just didn't. And it's gonna be inside, it's not gonna be outside, so it'll be fine. And the other 3 chairs have held up just fine with no sanding, and they've been inside, so yeah, that's my justification. Then I did not believe that the screws were the right size for the bottom of the chair, meaning I felt like they would poke through the chair and like poke me in my butt, you know what I'm saying? So rogue piece of plywood, I keep scrap pieces of wood in the garage, and I attached that to the bottom with short screws and then attached the bottom of the chair. Do you see what I'm saying? But before I attach the bottom of the chair, I'm using real stain for the first time ever. Shocker, I know, I had never used real stain before. So I brought this to my neighbor, this color specifically because Shannon from the Daily DIYer, who I absolutely adore, uses this stain all the time. But I don't know, I didn't do it right, and I was freaking out for a second. I even messaged her, and she told me what I did wrong was I did not remove the previous stain all the way or finish, and that's why it looked blotchy. So this time I just went back with my foolproof method of mixing acrylic paint and water to create my own stain. I do like this method a lot. It doesn't have a smell and it works just fine. And then if you want it to be even more durable, just seal it with even clear spray paint if you wanted to use that. And I love the way this chair turned out. I really do. I love everything about it. It's exactly how I had pictured in my mind, maybe even better. I had been wanting to do this DIY for a really long time, but I was scared to cut the legs off of this chair because once I did that, there was no going back. But we hadn't used it in forever, so I'm so glad I did this. These 2 table legs were picked up at the end of a yard sale. They didn't sell. I believe it was a moving sale, which are great to go to, by the way, and great to shop the trash the next day. Anyways, they're actually metal, which was strange, but kind of cool. And I've had them for a while. In fact, the one to the left, I had originally made into a console table for our entryway. Now, when I picked these up, not only were they free, they came with a bunch of free spider eggs and spiders. So I can see why they didn't sell. So when I originally got them, I really scrubbed them down. But they've been in the garage, so I gave them a good scrub down once again. And then obviously I removed the top for the console table I had made because now these are gonna be our desk legs. Rust-Oleum's white chalk paint is my favorite chalk paint. I just dusted it on one coat to the table legs, then wiped away as I went because these are metal, but they do have a wood-like texture. And this paint dries super fast within 30 minutes. If I was doing another coat, I could have applied it then. Okay, listen, so for this next part, I originally went to Home Depot and got wood to make this organization board right behind me. And I'm trying to use what I have. So I'm using that plywood along with some MDF board. Ideally though, I would have went to Home Depot and got some thicker plywood, maybe like 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch, use that as the tabletop, but trying to use what I have. I am using the remainder of this and I'm using a miter saw. But just know, you can go to Home Depot and they will cut the wood down for you. So I figured out the best way for this wood to fit on this huge MDF board. Whipped out the old circular saw, which by the way, I did get at a yard sale for only $5. It was a great deal because it's Ryobi. And if you don't know, Ryobi, when you get the battery operated tools, the battery you use for like our weed eater, our drill, and whatever else we have that's Ryobi, all fit together. So that's one less thing you have to buy. I started laying down the plywood and then I did run into a bit of a problem. After I glued it down, my cuts did not match up. There were some huge cracks. The good news is though, one of my good friends here on YouTube, Alicia English, and I'm gonna link her channel below, called her up and I was like, please help me out. What can I do? I told her what I had on hand and she gave me a few options. So what we decided we were gonna do, or she told me what I can do, is just take some wood glue, fill in the cracks, and then lightly sand over it. Because I did not have enough wood filler to fill in all the cracks, this worked out really well. So filled it with wood glue and just lightly sanded over it and it looked great. Then the cracks became more of an aesthetic look than an accidental horrible mistake. I keep these wood strips from Home Depot just on hand pretty much at all times. It's less than $2 and they're really great for all projects. Just measure down the size of the board and then cut those down. Then we just needed some wood glue and a few nails. Not nails, screws. If you can't tell, I am not a professional or skilled woodworker, but I am a professional, self-proclaimed, make it work out. You know what I'm saying? Now, I did have a little bit of wood filler left, enough just to fill in the little screw areas. So I went back and did that. I also want to note that, like I said, I'm not a professional. So I don't want you to be intimidated by this. I think there's a saying, measure twice, cut once. I measure 5 times and I can still never get a perfect cut. But one of the best tools you can get, or in my opinion, is an Orbit palm sander, because you don't have to go with the grain and it really fixes a lot of mistakes. You'll see in the end, those crazy edges are no longer there. Went back with my favorite old chalk paint, mixed with water and gave it 2 coats. Then just attached the legs to the tabletop. And the most boring part is sealing the table. So I just used some polyacrylic, like 6 coats. You have to wait in between each coat. And dry time's different than cure time, meaning it'll be dry in 2 hours, but before you can really use it, you need to wait about a week. So that's what was done. Then thank you to Brandon once more for helping me bring this upstairs and helping me get the table exactly where I want it. A few videos back, I shared where this room was a disaster. I've already painted the walls, I've removed everything from this room, and now I'm just styling it and putting it all together. Loving the way it's turning out so far. This ladder was made in my last video, and for the time being, I am using it for the blankets I use, while I'm working. But I can definitely use that for more storage. I love the way this little grid came out. Still not sure exactly what it's called. I don't think it's called a box spring now that I think about it. And since this is a new space, I am still figuring out exactly how I want things placed, because not only do I want this to look nice, I definitely want it to be functional. So the next video, I will definitely update you on where this is. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, I'm beyond shocked and I love you. My next video will be dollar organization for this craft room. Have a great week. I'll catch you next time.